Ayan had spent 3 years working as a waiter at the Blue Pearl Hotel, a place known for its warm lights, soft music, and the faint smell of lavender drifting through the lobby. Every evening, he buttoned his crisp uniform and reminded himself that life would eventually get better, that one day he would step beyond the routine of serving others happiness and find his own. But until then, he kept his smile gentle, his service perfect, and his dreams tucked safely inside his heart. One rainy evening, as he adjusted the cutlery on table 7, he noticed a girl walk in, soaked slightly from the drizzle, her hair falling in soft waves, her expression tired yet graceful. She looked around the restaurant with eyes filled with quiet searching, as if she hoped someone would help her breathe for a moment. Ayan stepped forward and guided her to a seat near the window. "Would you like something warm?" he asked. She gave a small smile. "Tea. Strong." Her voice held both confidence and exhaustion. Ayan nodded politely and walked to the counter, but something about her lingered in his thoughts longer than usual. Maybe it was the loneliness in her eyes, or maybe the way she seemed to carry her world alone, almost the way he did. When he returned with the tea, she looked at him with surprise. "You added cinnamon," she said softly. He froze. "Oh, if you don't want it, I can." "No," she interrupted gently. "It's my favorite." Ayan felt heat rise to his cheeks. He didn't know how he had guessed, perhaps he simply wanted to make her evening a little bit easier. For the next 30 minutes, she sat quietly, warming her hands on the cup. Every few moments, her gaze drifted outside as the rain thickened, and Ayan found himself glancing at her from the counter, hoping she wouldn't notice. But she did, and when their eyes met, she didn't look away. Instead, she smiled. When she stood up to leave, she approached him slowly. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't even realize how much I needed warmth today." Ayan simply nodded, unable to find words. "My name is Hania," she added. "Ayan," he replied with a shy smile. And then she left. Over the next week, Hania returned every evening, sometimes with a book, sometimes with her thoughts, always with that same soft tiredness that gradually began to fade. She asked about Ayan's day, teased him for being too serious, and listened when he spoke about his small dreams. Ayan learned she worked in a nearby office, that she supported her family back home, and that she often forgot to take care of herself. He didn't tell her, but he liked being the one who noticed. One evening, she arrived looking upset. Her eyes were red, her hands shaking slightly as she sat at her usual table. Ayan rushed over with tea before she even asked. "Bad day?" he asked softly. She looked up at him, her voice trembling. "My boss yelled at me, and I just felt so small." Ayan pulled out the chair across from her. "You're not small, Hania. You're stronger than you think." Her eyes softened. "You always say the right things." "Maybe because I say what I see," he whispered. A quiet silence wrapped around them, warm and fragile. For the first time, Hania didn't hide her tears. And for the first time, Ayan reached out and gently placed his hand over hers. She didn't pull away. That night changed something between them. Hania began arriving earlier, sometimes helping Ayan set tables, sometimes just talking to him while he folded napkins. Their conversations grew deeper, from childhood stories to the pieces of life they both tried to hide from others. Ayan found himself laughing more, dreaming more, and hoping for a life he once thought he could never afford. One night, after the restaurant closed, Ayan was cleaning when Hania appeared at the door. "You're late," he teased. She rolled her eyes. "I brought something," she said, holding up a small paper bag. Inside was a slice of chocolate cake. "You mentioned once you never get to try the desserts here," she said. "So, this is for you." Ayan blinked in surprise. No one had ever brought him anything, ever. "Thank you," he whispered. She took a fork and held it out to him. "Taste." His heart hammered. He leaned forward, took the bite from her hand, and for a moment the world softened around them, the lights, the silence, the closeness. Her fingers brushed his lip accidentally. Neither spoke. "Ayan," she whispered, stepping closer. "Can I ask you something?" He nodded, breath unsteady. "Why do I feel safe with you?" He swallowed hard. "Maybe because you're home to me too." And before he could overthink it, Hania wrapped her arms around him, resting her head against his chest. Ayan closed his eyes and held her tightly, as if he'd been waiting his whole life to be seen like this. Days turned into weeks. Their bond deepened, wrapped not in grand gestures but in small, healing moments, soft smiles exchanged across the room, shared tea breaks, quiet confessions under the dim lights of the restaurant. Ayan felt alive for the first time, Hania felt understood. But life isn't always kind. One afternoon, Ayan was called by the manager. A senior waiter had resigned, and Ayan was being offered the chance to train for a supervisor role. It was everything he had worked so hard for, but it required longer hours, less time on the restaurant floor, and possibly relocating to another branch. Hania sensed something heavy when she came that evening. "What's wrong?" Ayan explained everything, unsure of what he hoped she would say. She lowered her eyes. "So you might leave." He nodded. "I don't want to lose what we have." Hania took a shaky breath. "Then don't. Dreams don't ask us to sacrifice love. They ask us to grow with it." He stared at her, realizing she wasn't asking him to stay behind, she was asking him to take her along with his dreams. "Hania," he whispered, "I want you in every version of my future." Tears filled her eyes. "Then don't let go." He stepped forward, cupped her face gently, and kissed her. Soft, slow, healing, like the quiet rain the night they first met. Her hands slipped around his neck, and the world seemed to finally make sense. 2 months later, Ayan stood in his new position at the same hotel, promoted, respected, and more confident than ever. Hania waited for him every evening, sometimes with tea, sometimes with laughter, always with love. Their once fragile connection grew into something strong, steady, and beautifully theirs. And in the soft glow of the Blue Pearl Hotel, where their story began, Ayan finally found the happiness he had spent years serving to others, this time in the form of a girl who walked in on a rainy day and healed his heart with nothing but her presence.